Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another video. It is the middle of July. We've got water temps that are going to be around the warmest that they're going to be all year long. They may fluctuate a few degrees from here, but we're talking about the warmest water temps where you're going to have all year long. And I got a viewer question the other day where they asked me, what are some of my favorite baits to throw during the summer months? Now, this viewer is specifically down south. They're in the Alabama area, but the baits that I've chosen here aren't going to vary much based on your location. They catch fish year round. Now, I will say there's a couple of tips to maybe increasing your odds using these baits, but the reality is these baits are phenomenal warm water baits. Now, the reality is almost all baits can be used during the warm water periods. It doesn't really matter if you're throwing a spoon, a crankbait, soft plastics, jigs. You can make almost every bait work. And the reality is the fish are at their highest level metabolism levels, and therefore they have to feed a lot. So you're really going to be able to offer fish almost any different presentation that you want. You can fish the ones that you feel most comfortable with. You can also fish the ones that maybe you don't have much confidence in, but you're looking to build some confidence. But the reality is the baits I've got here are some of my favorite baits to use during the warmest water periods. Before I share these with you, I do want to remind you that I do have a members only channel. So if you're looking for more content from me, check that out. You can go to my homepage and hit the join button, learn all you need to learn about the channel. Also, we've brought back the lake breakdowns through Fish the Moment. So if you're looking for a little bit of help, maybe on a lake that you're going to for vacation, or maybe it's your local lake, I've done a whole pile of lake breakdowns on lakes scattered across the country. There's some that are geared specifically to smallmouth, some that are geared for both smallmouth and largemouth. But check those out. The link is also in the video description for that. All right, so let's talk about some of my favorite summer month lures. These are ones that I have tied on pretty much no matter where I'm at in the country, and they just seem to generate a ton of bites. One of my absolute go-tos is this guy right here. So this is the Core Tackle Swim Jig. I've got it paired up with a Reaction Innovation dipper on the back. This is the Goldilocks color, so it's chartreuse and white with a little bit of gold in it. This is a summer workhorse for me. Now, part of that has to do with I love to fish current, I love to fish rivers, and this bait specifically is a phenomenal river fishing bait. You can throw this through grass patches, you can throw it through pads, you can throw it through log jams, you can skip it up under cut banks. It works really well. It's a great largemouth, smallmouth spotted bass bait. So I love fishing it in moving water, but it's a phenomenal grass bait as well. And most lakes are at their peak for grass growth during the summer months. So from that standpoint, you need a bait that comes through the grass clean, a bait that you can skip up under docks. It's just a really good bait to generate strikes. You can mimic bluegill, you can mimic shad. Just does a great job at locating fish and getting fish to bite. You can fish it in so many different ways. It's just one of the most versatile baits out there. So I've always got a swim jig tied on. And the reality is I have a swim jig tied on almost year round. I would say when the water temp is cooler than 52 degrees, 53 degrees, somewhere in there, I generally don't throw it. But in your warm water periods, I have to have a swim jig tied on. And that's one of my favorite colors. Another one that seems to just shine throughout the year are your wacky rigs or your soft stick baits. This is the Berkeley Max Scent 5-inch General. This is the one that I've become absolutely fond of. Uh, you can fish it in a ton of different ways. If you want to wacky rig it, if you want to put it on a Texas rig and just throw it with a light weight, the point here is this bait, this do nothing bait, generates a lot of bites. You know, it does seem like during the summer months, even though the fish have high metabolism levels, a lot of times they're just not in really aggressive moods, especially when you're talking about the middle part of the day. But there's something about a soft stick bait that still gets those fish to bite when they don't want to bite other baits. So for me, I've always got one tied on. I would say the majority of the time it's a wacky rig because that I can throw it I can throw it shallow, I can throw it deep, I can fish it really slow on outside weed lines. I can pretty much throw it anywhere. If you have the patience for it, you can fish it down super deep. So I absolutely love to have the Max Scent General on. That's a great one. Another one is a frog. I have to have a frog. Now, a frog is a little bit more. I'll say it's a little bit more specific with respect to where you throw it. But during the summer months, like I said, you have a lot of really thick weed growth. You got a lot of thick pad growth. There's still going to be a ton of fish that are up really shallow, whether they're just cruising shallow flats or shorelines, or maybe you've got a little creek or something bringing colder water in. The frog is going to be a key bait because those fish are only in a couple feet of water. You only have to have the fish go that far to strike your frog. And it generates really big bites. So I've always got a frog tied on. This is the Berkeley Poppin' Swamp Lord. This is quickly becoming one of my favorites as well. And I really like this color. It's a black and yellow color. I tend to usually either go with a black colored bait, the majority of it's black, or I tend to go with a bait that's a little bit more bluegill colored because a lot of your shallow fish are going to be keying in on bluegill. Now, from a popping standpoint versus a straight nose, a typical hollow belly, that really just depends on the cover that I'm fishing. If I can get away with it, I tend to like to go with the popping models more so than just the straight nose models. But a frog is an absolute killer summer technique. It's something that, again, once the water temps start getting kind of cooler, you tend to put the frog away. So if you're looking to have some fun, that is an absolute killer bait. And because your top water periods are so good, I have to have a Vixen tied on. You guys know, if you watch my channel on a regular basis, you know I'm really partial to the Vixen. Just an absolute phenomenal top water bait. It calls them up from deep. You can fish it really tight. It walks the dog really tight if you want to keep it in place and throw it next to targets. But you're starting to talk about a lot of those summer fish feeding on a little bit bigger bait fish. Whether that's shad, they're keying in on gizzard shad, or whether they're keying in on bigger bluegill. The point here again is faster metabolisms mean the bass need to eat more. If they eat bigger objects, they tend to have to eat less. So a lot of times they'll key on bigger objects. And not that a Vixen is a huge topwater bait, but it does present a little bit bigger profile. But man, it's a great bait for covering water on flats. It's a great bait for fishing, say, current seams. It just does a really good job at calling the fish up. And at this point, it is very much a proven topwater bait. Uh, you'd find a lot of pros chucking these guys out there. So a Vixen is definitely one. And then if I was given one more choice, I need to have something that I can fish a little bit deeper. And that's one, where there's a lot of different options. Crankbaits are phenomenal baits in the summer months. Jigs are phenomenal baits in the summer months, but I feel like those both are kind of a little bit more specific. So, a crankbait, if you got a lot of grass, they can become tough to use. If you're throwing a football jig or a deeper jig, they work great on hard bottom. They can work through grass at times, but they're a little bit more partial to the specific techniques that you're doing. For me, one of my better deep water baits to throw in the summer months for multi-species is a Ned Rig. I feel like a Ned Rig is really gotten. I'm not going to say it's been kind of pigeonholed more for smallmouth. Lately, I do feel it's been that way, but it's a phenomenal spotted bass, largemouth, and smallmouth bait. And there's something about throwing a little M&M in front of the bass's face during the summer months where they find it hard to turn down. So for me, I'll generally start with a lighter Ned Rig, even if I'm fishing in 20 foot of water. If I can get away with, say, a 10th ounce or a 16th ounce, I'll use that. If there's a little bit of wind or a little bit of current, I'll generally go with a heavier weight to get down. But I like a slow fall, and that's just a bait that I've got a ton of confidence in terms of generating strikes, and it allows me to fish the outside weed lines. I can fish deep rocks. I can even go behind people on ledge lakes and catch fish with that when other guys were throwing big crankbaits or throwing big worms. There's always going to be a few fish that are left over that want to eat a small Ned Rig. So these 5 baits are tied on not year round, all summer long for me. Generate a ton of bites. Some of them, like the frog, you just got to take advantage of the season. When you get to throw a frog, you should throw a frog just because of how much fun they are. But all of these are great baits. I'll put links in the video description for you if you want to pick some up yourself and support the channel using our Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. Otherwise, guys, get out and do some fishing. Don't let the hot weather deter you, because you know what? The fish are still munching pretty good right now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.